cameras on her, and then a third camera might be off on top of the house, and then the editing is going to bring this all together. Film and art, very important to think about this. The Hollywood movies, for the most part, the popular culture, and anymore, this popular culture versus fine art delineation gets fuzzy. But cinematic movies are not considered art in the same way that some of these auteur-driven movies are. An auteur is just an author or a director whose films are marked by a consistent and visual style. Hitchcock is an auteur. Okay, you can recognize his films. Warhol is not exactly an auteur. He's an artist making films that are experimental. So he's an experimental filmmaker. He is not a new wave filmmaker. Don't get confused. The book is not super clear on that. Jean-Luc Godard is one of the French new wave, nouvelle vague, new wave cinema auteurs. Jean Seberg right here, she's actually an American actress working in France, but Jean-Paul Belmondo, Jean Seberg are showing the ideals of the look of that time, 1960. They're live on the street. Some of this is unpermitted, unset up shots where they're just walking down the street live. Very unusual, very different compared to like a Gone with the Wind situation where heavy sets, heavy, control over everything. Okay, the editing is a big part. All right, I'm gonna skip ahead. I don't want to skip ahead. Editing is a big part of how auteurism and how new wave cinema is defined. Editing here is very jump cut. It's very it's kind of wild, and it's also a lot of talking over one another. That's also a new wave technique. And cinema verite, you want to keep that in mind. That is to do with real life cinema. This isn't, this isn't exact, or truth in cinema. This isn't quite exactly cinema verite. More cinema verite does not include actors. But he's using parts of that technique. It's a little confusing in the book, but you just kind of walk up to people and start talking to them, and that's your film. Okay, very experimental, very unusual. All right, we're going to get into video. You need to watch Peter Campus. Actually, I'm going to backtrack. The Breathless is the full movie that I put in there. You do not need to watch the whole thing, but get a sense of the jump cuts. Video, Peter Campus is one of the beginning auteurs, or I would say, that I don't want to confuse the term, one of the beginning artists using a video camera. So it's a different way of making images. It's electronic signals, and they're transferred to a monitor. This was not a way to store things initially. It was just basically a way to transmit television, and then it became digital video, which is stored digitally on a disk, and we all know about this at this point. All right, internet is another type of net art. I'm not going to get too into that because there's not much about this on any of our quizzes, but a lot of people are experimenting, and there's a few examples in the book. This is one, Olia Lialina. I have a hard time with her name. And you can actually log on to this link up here if you wish to and just take a look at that. But she is playing around with the medium, and there's no ground here. She's done some manipulation here. It's kind of interesting. Camera and computer arts, you guys have all these definitions listed on the other PowerPoint. I'll leave you those. Okay, that's